We're back here on One-on-One, Brian Rabacs alongside Rilee Lucas, and we're currently joined by Jeff Ruland. Jeff is a two-time NBA All-Star, played 8 seasons in the NBA for the Washington Bullets, 76ers, and Pistons. Jeff also has a lengthy coaching career, most notably at Iona College, leading to 3 MAC championships, and has also recently worked as a talent scout for the Washington Wizards. Jeff, thanks so much for being with us today. How are you?
Thanks for having me. I'm great.
So I want to start off with your early playing days. You know, you grew up locally in the area, born in New York, and went to high school near Lake Ronkonkoma, and also chose to play college basketball at Iona. I wanted to know how growing up in New York led into that decision. Did you want to play anywhere else in your collegiate career? What led to you ending up at Iona with the Gales?
Well, I was the #1 high school player in the country in 1977 over Magic Johnson. I visited Kentucky, Indiana, Wake Forest, Notre Dame, North Carolina, and Maryland. And I was crazy enough to go to Iona and play for Jim Valvano. Tom Abetamarco recruited me. He should be in the College Basketball Hall of Fame. And it was very important for my mother to see me play. But I also grew up in Long Island, and we had some great basketball players back then. And a couple of guards, Kevin Hamilton and Glenn Vickers, had numerous scholarship offers, and they started the migration to Iona. And I followed suit with a couple other guys, and we wanted to do something. You know, back in the day, Jim was not, it wasn't about winning the national championship. I grew up watching the Knicks in Madison Square Garden, Dr. J and the Nets in the Coliseum. I used to take the train into the city. The Garden for me, I went to the Holiday Festival. So if I went to Iona, we were going to play in the Garden, which we did. And his thing was the 9 o'clock game. Sold out crowd against the #1 team in the country. We didn't quite do that. We beat Louisville, which was ranked #2 in the country at the time. It's the last game they lost that year. They went on to win the national championship, and we beat them by 17 points.
I mean, is there anything from that era that you played in that you wish current college athletes would take from that? You mentioned some notable differences.
Oh, no, I wish it was reversed. I'm sorry, you lost me. I would have been on the jumbotron in on 42nd Street and making millions of dollars. Yeah, I lost my last year of eligibility because I signed with an agent.
Mm-hmm.
Back, oh my God! Now it's like everybody has an agent except the water boy. So different era. I wish that 3-point line. I mean, I missed all that good stuff. But then again. There was no social media, so there was some things that today would have just some things after the games, hanging out with Valvano on the bar. We used to go. He was like, I lost my dad when I was 9. Jim was in his late 20s. I was 18. We go out and have a few drinks afterwards. He owned a popular bar and restaurant in town. It was a different time.
And I also found it interesting, you played at Iona and then also went back to coach there for a number of years. And I'm curious, how important was it to go back and coach for that Iona team as a player who spent many of their careers at college there?
Well, I went back after 10 years and got my degree, which other than my 3 daughters, I'm most proud of. It was great to go back. I had the chance to leave to go to a lot of bigger schools, and I stayed, and I still wound up getting fired, which still been a problem for me to this day. I haven't coached in the last 10 years, and it's not because of lack of wanting. I'll leave it at that. There's some things that are still going on today that are unacceptable, but maybe you'll hear about that in the near future.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, for you personally, you've had a lengthy career as a coach, whether it was for Iona or even assistant coaching for the league. For you personally, did you enjoy coaching for college athletes more or working with the 76ers?
Great question. Definitely college for me. I like to win. I'm very competitive. I'm not going to say I cheated at backgammon with my daughters. There's no proof of that. But for me, when the guys did the right thing, and at the end of the year in May when they graduated, that for me was my biggest joy. I mean, I coached with the Sixers. We played. I think it was Orlando in the Eastern Conference Final, and then wound up getting fired the next year. And they hired Eddie Joy, won 22 games. So a little frustrating. some great players. Andre Iguodala never missed a practice. Gave 100%. But there's a couple other guys that little soap opera backdoor type. I don't have time for that, to be honest with you, and kind of ruined it. But it is what it is.
And I'm curious, with your transition from a player to a coach, what made you want to get into coaching following your playing career? Is this something you always knew you wanted to do, or did it come up as the years kind of went on?
I wasn't smart enough to do anything else. No, I mean, in basketball, I grew up, say what you want, kind of a basketball savant. I made the players around me better, and I had a great short career. Unfortunately, I would have loved to play a lot longer, but that's what happens when you play hurt and spend hours and hours on the blacktop. I've had 13 surgeries. I'm semi-healthy now. I'm able to go to the gym and maybe even play golf. But yeah, I mean, it's a great game. I've it's been great to me. I've tried to get back. So it is what it is. I made 2 All-Star teams. I tore my knee my last game in college, and I people don't realize if they look at the tape how well I ran the court or whatever. But basically, I did that on one leg. I would have been even been tougher if I had had a healthy left leg.
Yeah, I mean, you've had an incredible career as an NBA player, as a coach, and even more so a talent scout. So I just wanted to ask, I mean, coming from the perspective of all 3 of those things, what is a quality that you really look for in an NBA player?
Well, I wish I would have had a little bit more input in Washington. They made me watch some of the worst college basketball games in the world and didn't value my input, and that's why that change was just made. But look for guys that back in the day it was a given. Guys played hard. Now it's a quality, but the same thing I said about myself is you look for players that make their teammates better. It's not always the basket or the rebound. It's the little things. The extra pass. Are you willing to set a pick? Are you willing to take a charge? Jim back in the day, Jim looked like a little like Joe Namath, not as much as he thought he did, but he used to say the gym rats take the charge. And when he would go and speak at camps, it was unbelievable. He would wheel out a skateboard with a white rat stuff taking the charge on it. So yeah, it's the little things that separate the good players from the great players.
And I mean, just to continue that on, for you personally, you worked with the Wizards for almost a decade. Who are you most proud of scouting when you're with the team?
Like I said, I'm great friends with Jay Wright, and I push for a couple guys that are doing very well in the league now, but it fell on deaf ears. So I'm going to take the high road and leave it at that.
Yeah.
We're here with Jeff Ruland. Jeff, I find it interesting, through your playing career, you've had a lot of great memories at Madison Square Garden. One of your best coaching moments was at Madison Square Garden. You led the Iona Gales to a win over ranked North Carolina in 2002. It was the school's first win against a ranked team in a number of years. And Fordham actually plays there in December 16th against St. John. So I'm curious, through your experience as a player, as a coach, and even as a fan, what is it like just being in Madison Square Garden and playing in that atmosphere, in that famous arena? How is it? What's it like? And the experience as a whole?
No, that was a great moment. We beat Iowa State when they were ranked. So I had 2 top 25 wins as a coach. The first top 20 win was when I played against Louisville in the Garden. And then Coach Pitino, I believe, beat Alabama recently, or 2 years ago, or whatever. But the playing was no comparison because it was standing room only. When I coached, there was, a couple thousand empty seats. I mean, it's the mecca of basketball, and sold out. I mean, one of the few regrets I have is after the game, I ran into the locker room instead of staying on the court and taking it in. My future, I should have stayed and looked for my soon-to-be future wife was in the crowd. So that I went in and hung out with the 80-year-old trainer.
I mean, I can't even imagine what kind of experience that was. I would kill for that feeling. But, treading back into your coaching, who do you think personally is the best coach out there right now, college or professionally?
Wow, I just read a great article, and it hasn't been confirmed, but supposedly LeBron, Bosch, and D Wade walked into Pat Riley's office and asked them to fire Spo. And he had everybody go in the locker room and stand up in line against the wall. And he went in there and told them, if any of you effers ever come into my office again, that's the coach, that's the culture. You got to love that. You got to love it. There's a lot of great coaches out there. Mike Malone, whose dad, Brendan, was a longtime NBA assistant and head coach, and actually an Iona grad, and coached me in 5-star basketball. So I'm a big fan of Mike Malone, and a lot of good coaches out there. A lot of good coaches. It's college is different now. Every year, with the transfer portal. Before, it used to be all about the education. Now that seems to be way down the line, which is fine as long as you eventually get it. But it's you got obviously you can get more talent, but then you've got to put a collection of basically a new team together every year. And I'd be one to tell you right now, you can have all the talent in the world. If those guys aren't on the same page, it's going to be a long year. It's going to be a long year. The last championship team, I had a lot of those guys for 4 years, and it took me 3 years to teach them the right way to play basketball. And even then, it's like pulling teeth. So, yeah, it's not easy. I wouldn't. I miss coaching, but I wouldn't miss. Sorry, but I wouldn't miss that shit show for it.
Yeah, all the things that come along with it. I can only imagine.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big proponent of education, and believe me, I did 50 credits the first 3 years. The only reason I got the books was to sell it. It's amazing when you actually go to class and open a book, how much different it is. And I did that, and I'm just a big proponent of that. So it's different.
And I mean, in terms of that, do you think paying athletes and all these NIL deals, do you think that's going to hurt college basketball or help it?
I think it's going to separate it. I'm going to think you're going to go more toward the football model, where there's 5 or 6 power conferences, and then the have-nots, unfortunately. Mm-hmm. And if they expand this NCAA tournament, that's, people want to go 7. That's ridiculous. I think one of the greatest things, and I was in a conference where you had to go and you had to win 3 games over the weekend in 3 days, and that, the regular season is great, but there's something about that win or go home. Nothing like it for me, anyway.
Jeff, we got time for one more for you. We're currently in the midst of the NBA playoffs and the NBA finals, and you talked about what you look at as a player and all the intangibles that you look for. So I'm curious, is there a player today, either currently playing in the playoffs or in the NBA as a whole, that stands out to you that has these shared qualities that you look for? Who's a player that stands out right now that's caught your eye?
My twin, but I'm a little better looking, Jokic.
I see it. I see it.
Big fan. He's makes his teammates better. I mean, what doesn't he do?
What do you think about the Nuggets in the finals?
Yeah, I'm like I said, I'd love to see. I'm a big, I'm almost ready to make Jimmy Butler an honorary beef brother. That's how much I love it. His old act, but we'll see. It'll be a tough game tonight. And I love Marcus Smart, but keep the ball out of his hands in the last 5 minutes if the Celtics want to win.
I can agree with you there.
There you go.
There you go. Jeff, that's all the time we have. Thank you so much for joining us. Jeff Ruland, 2-time NBA All-Star. Jeff, thanks so much for being here today. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Bye.
We'll be back with more one-on-one after the break.